Xcaret Park. We spent a lot of time at this park, but even if you're on a tight schedule, you should plan at least 2 full days at Xcaret Park to make sure you have enough time to do all of the activities. First of all, if you're staying at the resort, there are several different ways to get to and from Xcaret Park. You can walk, you could take the boat, or the shuttle. The shuttles, you hop on, you hop off. It's easy enough. The boat rides, they come every 15 minutes, but it is not a guaranteed route. One night after the show, we had waited there for quite some time, so we found the staff member and they informed us that they were not offering the boat services that night because of high tide, that the water was too high to send the boats back. So they told us we would either need to walk or to take the shuttle back. And they had reassured us that it would be easy for us to walk, so that we didn't have to find the shuttles and then wait in line. And they assured us that it was super, super easy. You just follow the river. That is not true. We followed the river and we did make it back to the resort, but not how we were supposed to. We were in the staff area and luckily a member that worked there noticed us, so he waved and I asked him to come over and help us and he was able to guide us back. But it was dark and it was a little scary, to be honest. So if you do choose to walk back at night, one, either make sure you have really clear directions on how to get back, or two, stay in a group. That said, once you're actually on the grounds of Xcaret Park, there are lines in the ground and it's tile or brick and they're different colors. And you can either use the app on your phone or one of the posters that are located throughout the park. They're actually color coordinated to tell you where you need to go, whether it's the lagoon or the beach or the aquarium. Wherever you need to go, it's color coordinated on the actual ground. There are several animals, almost like a mini aquarium on Xcaret grounds. And they do offer different experiences, but we chose not to do any of them because we had already done them on other vacations and didn't want to redo an experience we had already done. But they had sharks and baby sea turtles and big sea turtles and an alligator, and there was a couple other little animals in tanks, and it was just kind of neat to make your way through and to see these different animals. There were also surprise wildlife there, but I'll let Nate tell you about those guys.
We encountered a couple different animals, one being like a spider monkey raccoon looking thing. We were just walking on the path one day and we just saw a couple of monkeys, I'm just gonna call them, just scurrying through going da, 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 da. And then they were eating all the trash and then running back into the brush. There were also what I like to call capybaras, but they were something starting with a Z. They do look like capybaras though. We did find one by the ancient ruins, and we actually got pretty close, but then after we got like 3 feet away from them, they just went they dashed into the bushes.
One of the areas that we did enjoy was the aviary butterfly garden. And this is very similar to like an insectarium. We probably spent about 15 minutes in there and it was on multiple levels and they had different butterflies. Even though it's also called an aviary, it was just mostly butterflies, but it was beautiful and the surroundings were just very peaceful and it was nice to walk through. We did make our way to the snorkel area. Every day we were there. The boys chose not to wear the free gear available to them. They had the whole face masks so you could see the animals in the water, but our boys chose just to wear their regular goggles. The water was cold. We wore our wetsuits in there. Other people were freezing or complaining or trying to stay in the sun. It was worth it for us to have our wetsuits. But I'll let Marcus explain this area to you a little bit more.
The snorkel activity. This is where you could see fish, rent snorkeling things to get closer and stay under water longer. And it was pretty safe considering that it wasn't more than 5 feet deep. And it was fun because you could really get close to these fish, and they weren't too scared of humans until you got within about arm's reach of them, at which they would run away from you, obviously. And I really had fun at this station, and yeah.
Of the many things that you could pay extra for, our boys had to do the fish tank. Here's Nate's view on that.
Fish therapy was, to say the least, quite an experience. They had this little grass ball in there, and then obviously there was all the fish. At first I'm like, it's not that bad. It's not gonna tickle, I can stand still. But after I got there, it felt so weird. Yeah, after like 3 minutes or ish of squeezing and squiggling, I eventually fell in the tank. And it's only like a little fish tank, so just my feet fell in. But after that, the fish didn't really want to come over to me because they were scared. Note, if you want to get the most fish on you, do not move. If you vibrate, they will instantly let go and they will no longer latch onto your foot. So yeah, it was really fun, and my review is 10 out of 10.
In Xcaret Park, they also had cenotes, which are kind of like underground rivers. So in order to do this, you have to give up all of your belongings that are not actually attached to you. There's 2 different ways you can do that. There's lockers available, and there's also duffel bags. We chose to do the duffel bag route because you put everything in this duffel bag and it has a little lock on it. They lock it, give you the key, and then they actually bring the duffel bag to the end of the cenote so you don't have to make your way back to the locker. And that was just more appealing to us. So they make you wear a life vest, and then they also offer flippers. If you choose to wear them, you don't have to. And then once you get in the water, there are 2 different paths. There's a path for the weak swimmers and a path for the strong swimmers. The strong swimmer path is longer, and of course the boys had to do that one because they think they're professional swimmers, and I didn't mind because we were all required to wear the life vest. So if you're going to cruise through this path, it probably takes about an hour. Our boys decided to race through it, and it maybe took us about a half an hour. Something we truly do love about all of the parks was that they have photo stations throughout, whether it was the cenotes, the snorkeling areas, the beach areas. No matter where we were, they had the photo stands where you would slide your wristband and you could take pictures, which is one of the reasons why I didn't find it necessary to hold on to a camera or my phone in the parks, because there were plenty of stations where you didn't feel like you were missing out on any photo ops. Speaking of the beach areas though, this was a cute little area. It is not what you think about Mexican beaches being though. It's not blue water, gorgeous sands, or anything like that. It's a very average beach with a bar and a restaurant and lounge chairs. But that being said, there was a rope climbing area. Of course, we went there, but I'll let Marcus explain it.
One of the activities that we also did was a rope climbing area. Though it wasn't really a climb, even though I think it said that on the signs. It was more you're just walking across a rope while holding onto one above you. And it was over a little bit of water, maybe 5 feet deep. And the person right there made me wear a life jacket the whole time, even though I could reach, and I'm about 4'10". And yeah, it was fun for the most part, but one of the other areas I felt was a little unsafe, as it was a lot smaller of a rope bridge. It was maybe 20 feet to go across. But if you were to fall, there was rocks and stuff under you. It was under the water, but it was still shallow enough to where you would probably get hurt. But overall, I had fun in that area, and I'd recommend it.
Something I did like about this area, though, was that they had 2 different netting systems to stop any wildlife or real nasty algae or anything like that from coming up onto us. Throughout the entire resort, there are restaurants, snack bars, and I noticed from other people that they accept credit cards, charges to the rooms, or US dollars, which would have been helpful to know a little bit sooner for us. but I didn't realize that till the end of our trip. Throughout the resort as well, there are clean bathrooms, which is nice. Plenty of places to stop and rest, whether it was hammocks or chairs. And a lot of times these places were in the shade, which was nice. But that being said, they did offer towels in all of the bathrooms. We didn't find any, especially in Xcaret Park. And it's strange because they don't want you going to the shows wet and they don't want you getting on any of the transportations wet, but trying to get your hands on towels was almost impossible. Speaking of shows, there were several small shows that happened throughout the day. There was a horse show, there was a Mayan show, and there was like a little mini concert. We did not actually make plans to watch any of these shows specifically, but we did catch little glimpses of it. We would stop and just watch enough till we got bored of it or wanted to go do something else. And they were all good productions, but nothing that we felt was worth spending an hour of our time watching. And the reason they have the Mayan show available is because there's actually Mayan ruins on the ground. And even though the signs made it appear like they were historic ruins, I almost hope they weren't, because they were not roped off and they allowed the kids to climb on them, and our boys did indeed climb up and down. They ran through them. They weren't destructive, but if they're natural ruins, I would just kind of wish they had them roped off. But if they're not, then I'm kind of glad they let the kids run on them. But it was really unclear as to whether or not they were authentic ruins. Something that was really pushed on us from the moment we checked into Xcaret Resort was the Xcaret A Spectacular Show at Xcaret Park. And we were told about all the awards it had won and what a great production it was, how it competed with like Disney productions. So of course we made it a priority to watch the show. It was a good show. They start the show at 7, and about 6:30, they start putting characters out around the theater to set the vibe and to kind of set the scene for the actual production. So the show itself, I could see why it won awards, and it was a fantastic show, truthfully. The only complaint we have is that it was a lot of trying to figure out what was going on because the show was only in Spanish. And they had TVs around the arena, and in parts of it, they subtitled it, but not the whole show. And I don't understand why they wouldn't subtitle the whole show and wish they had. But even still, it was a show that I would recommend you seeing, at least the first half. So after about an hour, they go to a break. And then it comes back and it ties up the first section of the show, but the second part is more of a concert and turns into more of a musical than it is a production. And then there are no subtitles there. The people that were watching the show loved it, but honestly, we only watched the first 5 songs maybe of the second half, and then we kind of left early because it just wasn't our thing. We couldn't understand the music. The production part of it was really over. It was just more of a concert. But that being said, Xcaret Park as a whole is worth going to. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button.